Hey there, I'm Alex Kidman, and this is the GoPro Hero 13 Black. Let's get into the review. But I'm going to do this one a little bit differently because, let's face it, this is not a super new camera. I'm certainly not the first person to be reviewing it. But also, of course, GoPro's big target market has long been action-adventure types. If you surf, if you abseil, if you jump out of planes, these were the cameras to get. And I don't do any of those things. So I needed something else, and something that was a bit more than, just me swinging it around in my backyard to show you what the footage was like. Oh, look, it is a tree. Observe its tree goodness. I would recommend it. Ho, ho, ho. So instead, I'm going to go on a little adventure from somewhere here in Australia where it's very hot to somewhere where it's very not hot. Welcome to Japan. And I'm also going to let the footage that I've shot kind of tell the story here, partially because visually the GoPro Hero 13 Black is not externally terribly dissimilar to every other GoPro ever, for very good reason, and partially because it forms a nice vlog of my trip, which you might enjoy anyway. But getting back to the design, the reason that the design hasn't changed is not so much because GoPro's designers were asleep at the drafting board, but much more simply because there's a huge ecosystem of accessories that work off a standardized design for GoPro Hero cameras. I should at this point ethically note that GoPro sent me the Hero 13 Plus and a number of accessories to go with it, and this gets them a review. Nothing more, nothing less, but ethical disclosure is important here. But on the accessories front, if GoPro changed up their form factor massively, then the accessories wouldn't work. They'd lose a number of those enthusiasts to other competing camera brands in the action camera space. So it's not entirely surprising. I mean, if I wanted to be really pedantic, I could point out that the 12 Black was not actually black. It was black with those weird blue speckles, and those are not present here. I always thought they made the 12 Black look kind of dusty, kind of grubby. Maybe it was a subtle psychological trick to get me to clean that camera more often, but in any case, the Hero 13 Black is, well, it's black. The controls are stiff rubber and touchscreen, same as they've been for a while now. New to the lineup is the possibility for magnetic mounting of accessories as well, although that does rely on a magnetic latch mount adapter, which I wasn't able to test for this review, but it's a thing that this can now do. Rugged is, of course, the name of the game here, though, with a very interesting caveat in play. The GoPro Hero 13 Black is stated as being waterproof up to 33 feet, because GoPro's a US-based company, so naturally they use imperial measurements of the king. Don't get me started. This equates to around 10 meters in real-world, actually scientifically sound measurement terms. And look, that's all well and good, and obviously people surf and dive with them all the time, right? But as I noticed in my guide to water resistance in phones and other gadgets, waterproof has a specific meaning, and for Australian consumer law, it can get really touchy about things that are claimed to be waterproof, especially when you consider that GoPro's warranty specifically doesn't actually cover water ingress damage. Basically, this is a device that probably will survive going underwater, or as I did with it a few times, throwing it into some snow without too much trouble, but GoPro will not themselves warrant it if something bad happens. Now, I'm not a lawyer, this is strictly speaking not legal advice, but I suspect they're not exactly playing nice with Australian consumer law there. If something happened within an Australian-bought model, you might have a pretty good case to take to them, but I really wouldn't want that kind of stress. So obviously, I'm in Japan, I'm shooting, but actually straight away, as soon as I started to unpack my suitcase and get the GoPro and its accessories out, I realized that I'd made a mistake. One of the accessories that GoPro did provide me was the Handler, a lightweight floating hand grip that I was planning to use as my grip throughout all of my travels in the snowy climes of Hokkaido, all the way down through Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka and Nagoya. But I unpacked the Handler in my office, I put it to the side with the other accessories, and then I completely forgot to actually pack it. Oh! Thankfully, while much older GoPro Hero cameras relied on GoPro's particular secure mounting system, the GoPro Hero 13 Black also has a standard tripod mount screw hole within its base, One quick trip to a 100 yen store, and I had the cheapest possible tripod mount that I could try to do my best with. And look, honestly, the stabilization on what is literally a $1 mount is pretty darn good, actually. I've got a full video, actually, of this walkthrough of the Nintendo Kyoto store, which you should check out. And all of that was shot with that exact setup. And it works really well as a vlogging kind of tool, as a simple way to get around. Yeah, that works well. The more secure grip would be better, no doubt. But in a pinch, you do what you've got to do. And this actually did get me out of a bind. However, of course, the trick here is that this is not a new feature. That was actually on the Hero 12 Black as well. So certainly this is not something you'd upgrade from the Hero 12 Black for. Starting my trip up in Hokkaido also meant that at that time of year, I was exposing the GoPro Hero 13 Black and myself to some quite cold sub-zero temperatures, although nothing outside the claimed specifications of the camera. And here, the Hero 13 Black again handles itself well. I've got a full walkthrough video shot in Otaru that I'll link here that you should check out, and that shows that off actually really nicely. But overall, in the cold weather, it handled it without an issue, and in fact, the cold probably helped with overall battery usage because, of course, it didn't get to warm up at all because nothing did, not even my fingers. GoPro also upgraded the lens system for the Hero 13 Black. It's an interchangeable lens system, that's not entirely new, but the promise here is that the camera will automatically detect when you add any of the new ultra-wide, anamorphic, neural density filter or macro lenses. I tested out the ultra-wide lens, for example, on a trip to Matsushima Bay. Again, there's a full walkthrough video that you can watch if you want more of that footage. And the results were really very, very impressive. I was very pleased with the angle of vision. Obviously, you get that kind of predictable warping around the edges of the shot, but sometimes, of course, you can use that for some quite nice spot effects. Now, those lenses do not come standard. They cost extra, and kitting out the GoPro Hero 13 Black with all of them would be a quite pricey endeavour. That doesn't fuss me so much. I think you can just pick them up as you need them. But the one issue I had here is that switching the lenses can be an absolute chore. While the basics of twisting one lens off, lining up the dots on the lens and camera, and twisting the new lens on isn't complex to speak of, getting it to properly work without feeling like you're going to break the camera or lens is a trickier matter than I'd really like. And I get that it's all in service of keeping the GoPro Hero 13 Black as water resistant as possible, but I certainly don't find it easy to do on the spot, which is why I tended to just choose a lens and stick with it for the day. Doing so in the field, not impossible, but certainly not easy. The GoPro Hero 13 Black does have its Achilles heel, and its Achilles heel is its sensor. It's a 27 megapixel sensor, and it's the same sensor that's been in the past couple of generations of GoPro Hero cameras. And what that means is it has pretty much the same low light capabilities, and they're limited. They're not good. Shooting in daylight, you can get some spectacular, some really nice looking footage, but shooting at night, yeah, nowhere near as good, nowhere near as stable. Grain gets in it, the images just fall apart. I mean, again, I've got a full night walk video, mostly shot in Sapporo, which you can check out if you want more of that style of footage. But yeah, it's nowhere near as good or as capable when the light is low. And while GoPro do have light mods that you can add to the camera, they're more going to act in a very immediate kind of sphere if you are trying to do actual night videography in wider spaces. It just doesn't work all that well at all. It's representational, but it's certainly not good. One feature that GoPro removed in the Hero 12 Black, ostensibly to save battery, was GPS tagging. It's back in the Hero 13 Black. Now, I've got to say, it's not something that massively matters to me, but always getting more features is no bad thing. So it's there if you want it. You can disable it if you don't. That's basically what I did. But of course, use cases can vary. That's all good. And speaking of use cases varying widely, it's become ever more apparent to me that a huge part of GoPro's pitch and business model works around its subscription tier and mobile apps. I noted in my review of the Hero 12 Black that there's a specific issue around using a GoPro Hero camera with a Mac, because the supported solution was meant to be image capture, but image capture won't grab any file from the camera above 4.29 gig without corrupting it. GoPro did come up with a solution for that via its GoPro Quick App for Mac, which simplified matters, though it did require a GoPro subscription to download in the first place. So problem solved, right? Well, Yeah, right up until GoPro decided to completely discontinue the GoPro Quick App for Mac in favour of mobile solutions only. If you've got the app, it's there, but you can't download it anymore, it's not supported anymore, and I suspect at some future date it's just simply going to stop working. If you aren't using and editing on a Mac, then the more brute force pop the microSD card out solution does still work nicely, of course. On the battery front, while externally the GoPro Hero 13 Black has the exact same form factor as prior GoPro Hero models, that's not true once you pop open the side door. Inside, as with earlier models, you'll find a microSD card slot, USB-C connector, but also the new 1900 mAh Enduro battery. Now on the plus side here, GoPro's claim is that the new Enduro battery can allow for up to 1.5 hours of 5K 30 frames per second recording, or more than 2.5 hours at 1080p 30 frames per second, before sputtering to a halt. And that is up from the older Enduro battery models. And look, based on my experiences, yes, that could be true. Depends on your shooting plans largely. Most of my vlogging was honestly in shorter bursts of shooting, and GoPro did supply me with a spare battery that I took with me throughout my Japan trip. But I basically rarely had to swap over batteries unless I was quite lazy and didn't plug the camera in overnight while I was sleeping. I could easily grab an hour's worth of footage in a day and not particularly stress the battery, outside of the couple of times when I accidentally bumped the shutter button with the camera in an already stuffed jacket pocket. That set it to recording rather dull footage of the inside of my pocket, I'll spare you those thrills, while sapping the battery away and heating the camera up because it had no way to vent heat at all. Overheating has been a long-term GoPro problem, and clearly it can still happen. Obviously, the colder weather I was in tended to limit that more than it would in hotter climates. And I suppose one tiny silver lining of me making the battery very, very hot accidentally in my pocket is that a GoPro Hero 13 Black that's accidentally shot 25 minutes of the inside of your pocket makes an excellent hand warmer in sub-zero temperatures. That's probably not a use case that GoPro itself would recommend, however. There is a bigger downside than the overheating, however, and that's the fact that the new Enduro battery has a slightly different shape and its connector pins are in an entirely different location on the battery compared to the old ones. And that means it's not compatible at all with older GoPro Hero cameras. Also, older Enduro batteries will not work in the Hero 13 Black at all, again, because those pins are in the wrong place. It just won't see that the battery is there. And that is a big change from prior generations where you could switch around batteries at will. So should you buy the GoPro Hero 13 Black? Well, look, I think the Hero 13 Black is a good and very solid camera for its money, but it is just a gentle evolution of what the company has produced previously. The expanded battery life is arguably its best new feature, but it's one that does leave owners of older GoPro Hero cameras rather out in the dark thanks to its incompatibility with those models. Interchangeable lenses can give you some very unique looks for your video, but at an additional cost, and with the challenge of switching lenses out on the fly not being quite as vlogging friendly as it might be. It's certainly hard to suggest if you've got a Hero 11 or Hero 12 Black camera that the Hero 13 Black is a worthwhile upgrade, unless those extra lenses or that extra battery life means the world to you. And even then, it feels like a bit of a hard sell to me. Anyway, that's my take on the Hero 13 Black. Got any thoughts or comments? Hit me up in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and consider becoming a Patreon supporter.